Hello and welcome to the Why We See Movies podcast. I'm your host, Ron.Atlanta. Joining me, as always, we've got Ivan.
What's up?
And Paul.
Yo.
And Dexter Brown.
Yeah, hello.
Today we're going to review Marvel Studios' 18th release, Black Panther. Later on we'll do our Rant and Rave segment, but first, let's see what's going on inside the entertainment world with...
You on the mark!
Hey boys.
What's up?
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Great. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
Not too bad. Surviving this miserable winter.
That won't end.
It will not.
Winter has come, is what you're saying?
Still February.
Yeah.
We got time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we all live on opposite sides of town, so getting together isn't as easy as we would like.
Not in this weather, anyway.
Put out some more episodes. Yeah, exactly. We'll start out with a minor correction for me. On a previous episode, I was talking about HBO's upcoming schedule for the year, and I don't know what I was thinking. I think I blanked out on a year, but I said Westworld Season 2 isn't coming out this year. It is. In my mind, it's like Westworld. I just finished watching it last fall, but it was a whole year ago.
Yeah, because it is a long time between seasons 1 and 2. But
I guess not as long as I thought it was going to be.
It has been a long time since season 1 ended as well. So.
It was the scheduling, and I think the fires also in California kind of pushed back the shooting, didn't it?
No, I'm not sure if it had to do with that, or I think the creators just wanted to take a whole year off.
They were
and
taking
really
a long time
plan
anyways.
what they wanted to do for the next 4 years. I think they have about a 5-year plan for the show set out. And
then
hey, whatever time it takes to make a great show.
Yeah.
And it works out for HBO to fill the gap between seasons of Game of Thrones, to put something of this quality out to keep people at bay, so to speak.
Yeah, like getting back to my point, I think I was saying what a dearth of a scheduling dearth that they had this year. But no, that's great news for me. But I also said Big Little Lies Season 2 is going to be the one thing coming out this year that we might enjoy. That's not coming out till 2019.
Okay. So that in itself was a big little lie.
Absolutely. Yeah, flip those two. Okay, we'll segue into that. Speaking of HBO news, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss's next project for them, Confederate, remember we were talking about that, might be in flux. I don't know if you've heard, but these boys have been signed on for another deal.
They kind of, it's a bit of a good replacement, let's put it that way.
Yeah, they have been signed to write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy outside of the Rian Johnson one that he's developing right now. What do you guys think of that?
I love anything that'll bring any kind of different tone. You get people that have a track record of producing quality entertainment. I'm open to different visions in this world. So
they're two of the best names that I can think of to associate with a new Star Wars property.
Yeah, to have 2 new trilogies being planned right now, I guess that might be if, in case these origin movies don't pan out like they thought they would, maybe they'll have an alternating movie every trilogy coming out in the next 6 years, I guess.
Let's just hope their vision isn't too beyond what Kathleen Kennedy is happy with, and they don't get fired before the cameras roll.
I agree with you, though. 2 of the best producers around today, and to snag those guys. I look forward to that. I'm more excited about them doing a trilogy than I am Rian Johnson.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And as far as that Confederate show,
it was a good idea, so let's see. It's too controversial for HBO right now. Who knows?
I think so. Yeah, very touchy climate out there with a subject matter like that.
We'll see. Yeah, it wasn't a pro-racism show. It was just a show with a...
Oh, who knows? I'm sure it would have been a very intelligent, thought-provoking show on the subject of modern slavery, but... Star Wars trumps it all. Some new trailers have dropped in recent weeks. Speaking of Star Wars, the first trailer for the Solo movie has come out around Super Bowl time.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys all got a look at it. What do we think? Who wants to start? Paul, you're the biggest Star Wars fan here, right?
This is a project that, as we've documented on the podcast, has been rife with, all kinds of conflict and controversy, as like directors being replaced and all that. So it doesn't really give you a lot of confidence going into it. And I always said, I'm willing to give it until I see some footage and then judge it from there. It looks fun. It looks interesting. And I look forward to it now. I wouldn't say that I'm ecstatic for it, but I'm hopeful for it.
Dex?
Yeah, I thought it looked kind of uninteresting, personally. There wasn't a lot in the trailer that really piqued my interest. The Rogue One trailer, by contrast, had a lot of great, exciting imagery, and this one just kind of looked, And like a lot of people, I don't know if I like the look of Han Solo. I'm not sure.
The actor himself?
The actor,
And his
voice.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure. Although Donald Glover looks amazing, and I can't wait for that part of the movie. Anyways, he looks great.
And Chewbacca looks great. You can never mess. Chewbacca always looks cool.
He's got great hair.
You got it, Ivan.
I thought it was just a whatever trailer. It seemed to have focused a lot more on the comedic aspects of it without really showing too much. It seems like they're going to go for kind of like a lighthearted heist movie. So,
and like Paul, I'm still willing to give it a chance.
Yeah, I'll watch it. Yeah. I mean, it's Star Wars. We've all watched the Christmas special. Can't be worse than that.
If we're willing to sit through that.
Yeah, so we're willing to sit through this. We'll give it a chance. And I don't think any of us are hoping that it sucks and be like, haha, you guys fucked up. We all want it to be a good movie.
Yeah, we all want a good Star Wars movie.
Yeah, so we all want it to succeed. We all want it to be good. We're all going to give it a chance. And we're going to, review it fairly when it does come out. We're going to be fair to it.
Absolutely.
I will admit, this is the first Star Wars trailer. When it finished, I didn't have the need to want to watch it again or even really think about it that much afterwards. I'm not that excited about it, and I think I want to keep my expectations pretty low. I agree with you, Darren. Alden Ehrenreich, I think, is going to be the big factor in this. Han Solo is such an indelible character in movie history, and Harrison Ford is a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's even doing a Harrison Ford in this. It doesn't seem like it. If I was to see this character without the word Solo at the end of the trailer, I might not know that's Han Solo in this movie.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
We'll see if he can pull it out. I've seen this guy in a few other movies he's worked with the Coen brothers and Francis Ford Coppola. He's a good actor. I've heard some people saying he doesn't have the chops. I don't think that's it.
I find it kind of funny that a movie like Hail Caesar, they had the scene in there, spoiler for people that haven't seen it, where he actually has to get an acting coach, and then he actually in real life got an acting coach in the Han Solo movie. So
could you imagine if there was a line reading scene on Star Wars like there was on Hail Caesar? That is maybe the best scene in that whole movie.
I agree.
That worked so well. Like, he did a great job of portraying a guy that's taken out of Western movies where he's so comfortable to go to these classic movies where he's just completely out of his element and can't get it right. It's like he did such a great act of acting the whole scene that's now just saying, well, he can't be Han Solo. It's like, well...
life imitating art.
Yeah. But then again, it's like it all depends on what the directors... because it seems like the first directors wanted to be more of a full-out comedy, and maybe... so now it's kind of back and forth. So I guess we'll have to see when it comes out what the balance was struck there.
Yeah. But everything really does... you're right, Ron. Everything hinges on him. If he performs a really flat, cardboard, pale imitation of Han Solo, people are going to hate this. Doesn't matter how good a Donald Glover is or how good the rest of the cast is, he's going to be polarizing one way or another.
That's the nice thing about Lando. It rides on his performance. Maybe.
Right. And that's the nice thing about maybe an upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi movie is we're all sold on Ewan McGregor already. We know he can play that role.
Yeah.
Right. It's a done deal. And also, we had mentioned in other podcasts that we had thought this movie might be coming out at Christmas time. It looks like it's a summer release. They're still sticking to that.
It's May or June or something, isn't it? Yeah. Very soon.
Okay. Next trailer. Marvel debuted another trailer for their third movie coming out this year. That would be Antman and the Wasp, the sequel to Ant-Man. Ivan, why don't you tell me how excited you are about this one? I know Ant-Man is probably your least favorite Marvel movie after Iron Man 3.
Yeah. You know what? Like the first movie, I need to watch it a second time. I still haven't been able to bring myself to watching it a second time. So might be better. I don't know. I just found the first one to be just overly cliche and a lot of things just didn't make any sense. And now watching this one, it looks like it's, going to be another fun kind of movie along the lines of the first one. Some of the things I'm looking at, once again, don't make sense. Kind of like he shrinks a building and takes it away like a suitcase.
Where's all the plumbing for the building?
Or the fact when they shrink the card and it pops up, you're telling me the weight of the other card wouldn't like crush it. I think the problem was there was a lot in the first movie that I didn't enjoy, so that's why I focused on those things so much. And this one, I mean, if I'm enjoying the movie, those things are not going to bother me. So yeah, I'll see it. I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm hoping now, is it the same guy that directed?
Yeah, Peyton Reed is behind it. Yeah.
Well, maybe now that they actually had more time to work on it, hopefully they'll do a better job. It seems like the first one, once they got rid of Edgar Wright, it was just like get it out there kind of deal. So maybe that was the big problem. So I'm willing to give it a shot.
Paul?
I'm of a similar opinion as Ivan for the first one. It honestly probably is my least favorite MCU movie. Just it was not tonally what I wanted, and the humor just isn't my kind of humor. Much like Thor Ragnarok just didn't land with me because of the humor. This trailer actually made me a little more interested in seeing it. It actually, to me, looks better. And I agree, Ivan, like there's certain things that don't make sense, but I think in any of these movies, you can nitpick a lot of things that aren't just going to make a lot of sense. So you kind of got to either embrace it or not. And yeah, I thought it looked fun. It looked interesting. I'll see it.
Darren?
I'll see it.
Were you a fan of Antman? I'm not sure.
No, Antman, it's probably my bottom 3 Marvel movies as well. You know what? There's a lot I didn't like about it. One of the things I did like was the humor. I laughed a lot at the first Antman. I thought it had a lot of charm in the characters and the comedy. They didn't follow their own rules that they set up and so on, and that's kind of what bothers me. I don't care about the fantastic elements. It's just follow your own rules. This looks like more of that. It looks more or less the same as the first one. If they can amp it up a bit, I'll probably enjoy it more. But
looks like they're expanding the world a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just not excited for it really at all.
No. The introduction of Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp. That's a nice. She's a big-time Marvel character for fans of the comic book. She's been around forever and was a founding member of the Avengers. So it's nice to see her joining the MCU. Of course, it's not. Janet Van Dyke is the original Wasp. And, she'll be played by Michelle Pfeiffer in this movie. We didn't see any of her in the trailer.
I'm kind of glad for that. I'm kind of hoping they don't show that in future trailers. You know, save something for the movie.
Exactly, Ivan. Right. Yeah, gotta have some surprises.
And it's a good cast, too. I mean, as much as I didn't like the first movie, I like Paul Rudd in the role.
He's very good, yeah.
I just didn't like the material he was given. And I like Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly and, Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah. So, I mean, the cast gives me hope that it'll be at least somewhat worth watching.
Right.
And the fact that they had more of a time to write the movie and put it together. Whereas the last one, they were rushed.
Yeah, let's hope it's a little more solid. Yeah.
That's coming out in August, I believe. Okay, the last trailer I wanted to talk about today was the new Mission Impossible trailer. Mission Impossible 6. Is there a subtitle to that?
Fallout.
Fallout, right.
It's a continuation from the last one with the same villain.
I think it looks very much like a Mission Impossible movie. Usually, the Mission Impossible movies have decent trailers, and then I'm wowed by the movie. It's just they're really well put together. They're solid films, and the trailers usually really don't even show you how good of a movie they usually are. So, high expectations for that one.
I agree. I'm a fan of these movies, except for the second one. I did not like the John Woo directed one. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it will be good, like you said. The trailers, I don't really pay attention to them, but the movies usually are pretty solid. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
I can't wait for it. One of the things that I've really appreciated about the last couple is showing Ethan Hunt as human and not really always being able to pull off the amazing stunt. He's fallible. He's going to make mistakes, and I noticed that in this trailer. I can't wait for this movie. I've loved the last 3 or 4 for sure. So, like you, Ivan, the second one I'm not really a huge fan of, but I really like the rest of the series. So, I can't wait for it.
Dex?
I didn't watch the trailer. Maybe not that into it. I enjoyed the series. The first one, the Brian De Palma one, is the only one I've watched more than once.
Really?
So yeah, I enjoy them, and I kind of tend to forget about them afterwards.
Is that right?
This one gets good reviews. I'll be interested, and I'll watch it, and probably forget about it soon after. But but yeah, if it's a solid, entertaining action flick, yeah, I'm on board.
Like I said, I think this is probably the best spy franchise in movie history for me. I've seen them all multiple times. I'm a big fan of the third one, the J.J. Abrams one.
Me too.
I think Philip Seymour Hoffman is amazing as the bad guy in that movie. He really raises it to another level. And ever since then, from the Ghost Protocol, and I really look forward to the next one, and we're reviewing it for sure, whether you see it or not.
And I agree. I wasn't even going to see the third one because I disliked the second one so much. And then I think my dad bought it, and I thought, okay, well, I'll watch it for free. And that got me in on the franchise again. So reinvigorated it for me as well.
Yeah, same with me. I didn't see the third one in theater. I saw it afterwards, and I was like, holy crap, this is actually really good. And like you said, Philip Seymour Hoffman was great in that role.
Like everything he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. We lost a few guys over the last few weeks. I'll mention the minor actor first. His name was Reg E. Cathey. I'm not quite sure on the pronunciation. He was associated with House of Cards and The Wire. For any fans of House of Cards, he's the guy who ran the rib joint that Kevin Spacey went to a lot in the first few seasons. I can't quite remember his character from The Wire.
I believe he was the older detective that also had a side business of making that
that's right.
the furniture, like the little doll furniture.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. He's a great character actor.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's sad.
He's a guy, once you picture his face, you and start naming out his
I've seen him in a dozen things over the last 5 years. He's a very good character actor.
Yeah. So that was sad. He died quite young at 59.
That's all, eh?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
And then we lost another one. The great John Mahoney died at the age of 77. Probably most people would know he's most famous for a show I've never seen an episode of.
Really?
Frasier. Yeah, he was the father of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know him from many of my favorite movies, including Say Anything, The American President, In the Line of Fire, Moonstruck.
Mm-hmm.
He's got
Once again, talk about another great character actor.
He's got a minor role in Barton Fink, which I quote all the time.
His talent.
Where's my honey? He's just great.
He deserves to be remembered for far more than just Frasier. He's an outstanding actor.
Yeah, he always pops off the screen in anything he was in. I can't think of a guy who could play the nicer, grandfatherly, kinder figure and also a real creep and kind of a nasty guy, too. He could do them both extremely well. The first thing I ever came across him in when I was pretty young, I don't know if you've ever seen this, Darren. SNL did, in the early 80s, they would kind of do their short films, kind of like their SNL videos today, but shorter films. And they did a parody of The Color of Money called The Hustler of Money. And Ben Stiller, in the first thing he was ever in, did an impersonation of Tom Cruise, and John Mahoney was the Paul Newman character.
No, I've never saw it.
And if you can come across it, it's like a little 5-minute film, The Hustler of Money. It's hilarious. Back from the early 80s.
I'm kind of curious if that is on YouTube.
Good luck. Saturday Night Live stuff is hard to come by on the internet today.
Yeah, especially in Canada.
They're very protective of it. Yeah.
So, great character actor, John Mahoney. He will be missed.
For sure.
On YouTube, Hustler of Money.
Is that right?
Okay, good.
Okay, check it out later.
I'll be checking that out at lunch at work for sure.
Danny Aiello is in it for one line. It's hilarious.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dex?
Yeah, so there was another death in the last couple of weeks. Composer Johann Joannsson, whose really career was just starting to skyrocket. Icelandic composer who, through his association with not only Denis Villeneuve, but a number of other young up-and-coming directors, his score for The Theory of Everything, people seem to love. He scored everything from Sicario, Prisoners, and Arrival for Johann Johansson.
He did Arrival.
Yeah.
I love the score for that.
And
me too.
He has, I can't think of the name of it now, but a movie coming out very soon that his score already gained a lot of acclaim for, and he was only 48. Cause of death hasn't been disclosed, or at the time of the press releases initially anyways, but yeah, fairly young man, and his career was on the rise. Pretty sad.
Yeah, it's really too bad to lose talent like this where it's not just more the same or imitators of other people's style, where it's something that's very, very distinct. Like
exactly what I was going to say.
We came out of Arrival raving about the soundtrack and how it added such a big element to that movie that's not the same movie without his score.
Absolutely. It wasn't a tacked on score that could have just been, dropped in at any time. It was integral to the entire film. That's too bad. That's
and his music was very different from project to project. So you look at Sicario to Arrival to Theory of Everything, and each score was very unique. So I'm sure he had a lot of great work left in him, but
very sad. What was his name again?
Johann Johansson.
Okay. Let's move on from the sad news and move on to our feature review.
Let's do it.
Let's leap to it.
Tell me something. What do you know about Wakanda? It's a third world country. Textiles, shepherds, cool outfits, all a front. Explorers have searched for it. Called it El Dorado. They looked for it in South America. But it was in Africa the whole time.
Hold up. Let's go. We are home. My son, it is your time. Show me my respect and bow down.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be. Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out.
Wakanda forever!
The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
Black Panther was written and directed by Ryan Coogler. It stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Danae Guerrera, Letitia Wright, Forrest Whitaker, Andy Serkis, and Martin Freeman. I'll give you the IMDb listing. After the death of his father, T'Challa returns home to the isolated but advanced African country of Wakanda to take his rightful place as king. Darren has not seen Black Panther, so he's going to be momentarily leaving us, and he'll be back for the Rant and Rave section. Before we get to our first thoughts on the film, I just have to make a note of this opening weekend. It's only Sunday right now when we're recording this, and it's looking like it's estimated at a $218 million opening, smashing the February record held by Deadpool last year with $156 million, becoming the 5th largest opening of all time. Wow. I knew it was going to be big. Just like Wonder Woman, I think a big African-American blockbuster spectacular has been a long time coming. So I thought, there's going to be a good response to it. Nothing like the response it's been getting. Overwhelmingly positive, reviewed, has a cinema score of A-, the second highest of any other Marvel movie. Everybody is loving this movie. Me too. I thought it was great. A very solid Marvel film. Not my favorite Marvel movie. Not middle of the pack either. As the origin ones go, it's one of my favorite. Lots of good stuff to talk about. Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed it. It brought a lot to the table that I was not even sure that I expected or not even really realized that I needed out of a quote-unquote comic book movie. But it was nice to see a person in power struggle with the direction that their country would take. So it's got a very strong sense of social awareness and sensibility about it, which I wasn't really expecting, but I appreciated. I love the design work and the costumes and the visuals. I thought it was a feast for the eyes. It was beautiful. I loved the music. I thought it really brought you into this world. I thought all the cast performances were very good. I loved the cast, and I thought all the performances were strong. And I really enjoyed the overall story, too. I mean, I might have a few quibbles that we'll get into in spoilers, but overall, yeah, this is by far one of the strongest entries into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie that I really enjoyed. I was kind of glad that some of the things that I don't like about Marvel movies weren't as big in this one. One of the things that I liked about it, they had a good villain. And I think it also had to do a lot with the fact that Michael B. Jordan did such a great job that I wanted to see more. They just spent a little more time on giving his backstory. It would have made things even better.
Yeah, he's one of the best. I don't know if I agree with you on screen time. I thought if he gets enough screen time to really know what he's all about, what he's going for.
But I wanted more of what led him to this path. They just don't...
Right, there is that lost segment in his history that we're not really too sure about. You're right.
Yeah, to go from, he was a kid to, I'm going to conquer the planet. And especially because he just did such a good job, you want to see him progress to that point. You just want to see more of him.
Yeah, and I agree with you too, Paul. The look of the movie is great. I don't know if they're drawing on a lot of different African cultures or not. It sure looks like they are. And
I think that they did, because they wanted to give each tribe their own kind of unique look.
And you think each one of those they're drawing upon some historical?
I mean, I would definitely feel that they would take real world inspiration for those. Because why wouldn't you pay tribute to these real cultures that haven't really been given that in the past?
Absolutely. And the movie has a lot of such strong elements, going from the origins of Stanley and Jack Kirby. They created this great African country, Wakanda, isolated from the world, everyone thinking that it's this third world country, and it's actually the most advanced country on the planet. And it's up to them whether they want to share their technology with you or not the other way around. And that is a great hook. I wasn't quite sure. Did you think it was all going to be Wakandan based?
Unfortunately, the trailers, I couldn't avoid one of them when Star Wars, I believe, and the trailer basically laid out the plot of the whole movie.
I checked out the trailers after I got home, and I'm glad once again that I skipped them.
Yeah, because it did really tell you exactly what the layout of the movie was going to be, which was unfortunate. But I definitely was kind of confused by Martin Freeman's character. Like, him and T'Challa had this bigger history, that he was already aware of Wakanda, especially because of Civil War. You kind of see him always with the Black Panther.
Yeah, it's true.
They're not even friends, really.
I was surprised at how much of a role Martin Freeman has in this as Everett Ross. I think that's the character. I thought he might just show up for a scene or two, and he actually turns out to be quite a major player in the end.
Yeah, I was expecting him in that one scene that we see early on. I was kind of expecting him just to be in that, just fill that role, connect him to the outside world a little bit, and then move on. But as far as expectation as to where this was going to take place and when, I didn't really know, and I avoided the trailers because I wanted to come in fresh, and I'm glad I did, and I thought what they did worked. I thought it was really interesting as far as what we were talking about, how things look, and just there's such a advanced technological society. I really liked they were advanced, but you could see in their weapons and also in their buildings, you could see that they were honoring the past too. Like you'd have a skyscraper, but it would look like it was built into the side of a tree almost, kind of.
But they're still fighting with spears, but energy spears.
Yeah, and I love that element of it where, yeah, sure, they're moving forward, but they haven't forgotten their past either. And that really appealed to me because I think if they had just gone too futuristic, it might have pulled me out of it.
For sure. When you get down to the streets of Wakanda, it's still
a regular town.
Exactly. The whole look of the country is so great. You would just want to spend more time in Wakanda. Great job on art and set and the design work. It's nice to, after 18 movies of being in the Marvel Universe and on Earth anyways, and being taken someplace new and saying, oh, okay, well, we didn't know this little corner of the universe exists, which is pretty cool. Performances, Chadwick Boseman, of course, is still great as Black Panther. He showed that in Civil War that he was the right choice for this movie. And
it's crazy how that was almost Wesley Snipes.
Well, years ago.
Yeah,
a younger
Blade,
Wesley Snipes,
and then once that fell through, he did Blade.
Could you imagine that would have been anything like this movie?
Nothing at all.
It would
I think there was going to be like him in like actual spandex and stuff like that.
But it would have been more Black Panther as a spy in America, right? I don't even know if much of it would have taken place in Africa.
Probably not.
I'm glad we got the movie that we did because I think there's a right time and a right place for it. And much like, as you said, last year, Wonder Woman kind of hit right at the right time. I think this is hitting at a very crucial time too, social consciousness, and it works.
As you were saying before with the themes of the film, they couldn't be more relevant today, especially coming from Eric Killmonger's point of view. He has a very definite idea about how Wakanda should be interacting with the rest of the world, let's say. And you can't argue with him. That's the great thing about why he's such a good villain, is a villain that you can kind of see his point of view on things and think, well, maybe he's not all so crazy. You know, he's making a lot of good points. That's always much more interesting.
And, you know, in the end, T'Challa kind of agrees with them. Like, he didn't want to go to that extent. He want to go the peaceful route versus we're just going to kill you all and take over, right? Because even in Black Panther's own family, we're kind of pushing him to do what Killmonger wanted. Let's help the world. Let's help our people.
Yeah, enough of this staunch isolationism. We have all of this great technology. Why aren't we using it to the benefit of not only other African Americans throughout the world, but the world? Yeah, the world in general.
And I really liked how Killmonger's brash style really was a true contrast to the culture that we were immersed in up to that point, because it really made it stand out a lot more if he had interacted with that too early in the film, because I think by that point you had a good idea of their culture and what they held, and then you had this brash American coming in and really shaking up the status quo and bringing in such a different, more out there and obvious viewpoint where there was no subtlety to it at all. And I thought that worked great as a contrast.
Because he was, he grew up in a world where, black people are like, well, look what's going on in the States now, right? Where you have a president in there that constantly talks about how they're living in squalor, they're uneducated, they're criminals. Why are we allowing this guy to do this to our people when we can just be like, go fuck yourself, we're going to take over.
And if you realize that you had an outlet to go get to change the status quo, why wouldn't you embrace that and go try to affect change? Like you said earlier, Ron, that you can really sympathize to some degree and see where his viewpoint is coming from. You may not necessarily agree with the way he goes about it, but you can totally understand why he's thinking what he's thinking.
He's such a damn good actor too, Michael B. Jordan, really. A hell of a lot better than his last superhero movie, Fantastic, that's for sure.
Which I still haven't seen.
Neither have I. I haven't been able to force myself to see.
Right, this will be the third collaboration between him and Ryan Coogler. Their first film, Fruitvale Station, is terrific, and then they did Creed, and now this one. And this guy is really, in my opinion, setting himself up as a major talent, this director, Coogler, and I can't wait to see what he has in store next. And Marvel's going to be really lucky if they can hang on to him for the sequel.
Yeah, I agree, because I loved Creed, and I know Ivan did too, and he's a huge Rocky fan. So being able to hold on to him will be key. If I'm assuming if it's making this kind of money, they're going to eye a sequel.
It's going to make $1 billion, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not to harp on this point every time we review a DC or Marvel movie, but the fact that you can do a lower tiered character that people don't really know a lot about, and it does this well, that should show you how things should be done.
In Marvel, we trust.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about this movie, I felt that was, it was just a Black Panther movie. This movie was not concerned with setting up the next 5 movies coming after it. They didn't start throwing in, let's throw in a Falcon for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. It was a concise vision.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. There's no tossed in scenes, that's for sure.
Because, this movie could have just been, you take out that part with the whole Civil War part, and it could have been just a standalone movie.
It was nice to have that introduction to the character,
I agree.
Especially with him and what happened to his father and stuff. It's nice to set the ground for that.
No, I agree. All I'm saying is that if that wasn't there, it would have worked just as fine as, like, you could have made this movie, like, before the MCU.
You can walk into this movie without seeing any of the Marvel movies, and totally get it and enjoy it.
Exactly.
Which is one of the things I loved about Wonder Woman, too, where it was a movie about that character. It had enough ties to the outer universe that if you knew about it, great, it worked. And if you didn't, it didn't affect the movie at all. And that's one thing that I was a little worried about going into this, is how much would Marvel let this character stand on his own. And I thought they did a great job. There was enough to understand what his role was in the outside world, but let him truly stand on his own. And I thought that was great.
Should we talk about some of the other characters that we might have enjoyed? There's lots of good performances. Besides Boseman and Jordan, I would say the highlight for me is, and I hope I'm not screwing up on her name, Danae Guerrera, who plays Michonne on Walking Dead. Holy smokes, is she good in this?
And strong, dynamic.
I left Walking Dead many seasons ago, but I always thought she was really good. And boy, can she do a lot with just a look. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this movie. She's not really saying anything, yet you always know what she's thinking and what side she's taking.
I don't watch Walking Dead because I gave up in season 1. So the general of his army, like the female...
She was the leader of like the elite guards that guards him. Yeah, the bold one with the big spear. She does so much with so little in this movie. She's terrific.
And a great portrayal. She is arguably the strongest warrior, and somebody that it's nice to see your central character is fallible and relies on people around him to be strong and help him through. And he really leans on her. And it was great that there was absolutely no romantic investment in there. It was truly these people getting through the situation together, and they didn't muddy that more than they had to. Yeah, she was phenomenal. I agree.
Right. No, he already has a great romantic relationship with the Lupita Nyong'o character, Nakia, I think is her name. She is terrific in this too.
Yeah.
She's kind of a Wakandan spy, right? She's doing some covert work when we first meet her.
Kind of almost like trying to like defeat slavers and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that worked great, and just a conflict in both of their characters of what direction not only the country was going to take, but their relationship as a whole and what they wanted out of it and what they needed out of it.
I think they showed her almost saving him more than he saves her throughout this movie. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it was almost like they killed two birds with one stone. Not only did they finally put strong women front and center in the movie, it's also African Americans front and center, right? So you can pretty much say that there was like one central male character, which was the Black Panther, and then all the supporting cast around them is all women.
Yeah. Another standout performance to me is Letitia Wright, who plays his sister, Shuri. I don't know if I've seen her in many things before.
She was awesome, and she worked great as the dynamic in that relationship was really good too, and like a true little sister, and somewhat antagonistic but fun, and pushing her older brother maybe into areas that he might not be comfortable in. She was very noticeable in every scene that she was in.
And she's so contemporary too. She's almost like the bridge between the old and the new, right? And she's so up to date on everything, and all those scenes with the remote control cars and her driving all work for me.
See, for me, I was kind of trying to figure out what was her age range supposed to be in this movie. Is she supposed to be a teenager?
Yeah, I think so.
Because sometimes her personality was kind of like, if she's a woman in like her 20s, 30s, I'm like, that wouldn't work. But
I was guessing around 17, 18.
Yeah, so for that, then it works, right? She's young. She's kind of teasing him. Like, she loves her brother. She supports him. At no point is she even thinking about, I want the throne from you. She's enjoying her life as being the smartest person there while he's dealing with all the king nonsense. nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I like the part with the car when she's that 3D model where she's just like hijacks a car and drives it, but she's not actually there.
Right. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Any other characters you guys want to talk about?
Did you think that Angela Bassett's hairdo was some kind of nod to Storm?
I thought that.
Interesting.
The whole white hair, right?
I didn't think that, but she was the original actress they were thinking about getting for Storm.
Yeah, so...
I thought of that too, because at one point in the comic, she is the Queen of Wakanda, so it works out.
That's true. Not his mother, though.
Well, not his mother, but...
No,
yes.
but I think it was just because they couldn't do the whole thing with Storm.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just read too much into it because I'm a fan and I know that him and Storm do get married. I don't know. Just something that popped into my head.
I mentioned it to Melanie and she's like, holy crap. She's like, I totally see that. So, yeah.
What do you guys think about Claw in this movie?
Andy Serkis is terrific. I knew he was going to be in it. He's a big Black Panther villain from the comic books. I thought he was really good, but I thought he was going to have a bigger role in it.
Especially after Age of Ultron and all of that.
Yeah, I really liked him. And like you, I thought maybe he'd be a little more included in it. But basically his storyline was exactly the amount that it needed to be. And when his story was no longer relevant to the main story, it was wrapped up and at the right time. So I thought that was very well done.
And I kind of liked how they were kind of brutal because it's a Marvel movie and whatever, but they let Killmonger do his thing. They didn't shy away from the violence. They were like, they let this Killmonger just be it's absolute villain.
There were kids in the theater when I went to see it, and I was kind of thinking, I don't know how appropriate this is. Like, just because it's a quote-unquote comic book movie doesn't mean take your kid to it. There's some very heavy subjects.
Yeah, I would say it's like 10 and up.
Yeah.
Getting back to one thing that you mentioned, Ivan, the more serious aspects of the film, and I'm sure something that you enjoyed, was there was really a lack of jokes. This movie had a few, but not as many.
But it wasn't comedy based on like stupid gags when they were setting them up. It was comedy based on like the comedy movies that I like, from dialogue, when characters are interacting, that they can have a conversation with these quips and be entertaining. And it was just, I didn't feel like I'm being treated as an idiot. Like, if you're too subtle with this, you're not going to understand the joke. Right?
You didn't have a destruction button gag play on for 3 minutes like they did in Guardians 2. I agree. Like I've said many, many times, I'm all about the character-based comedy, and I laughed a lot in this movie. I laughed more in this movie than I did Thor.
Which, you know what I mean? Yeah. There's nothing cheap. There's no cheap gags in it.
And that's exactly why I like it, is I don't feel like I'm being pandered to or played down to. I appreciate those character moments and interject some humor because life has humor, and these people, if they've known each other for a long time, they will have their own little in-jokes. And the humor they had in here, I thought worked great.
Yeah. Brought out of the situation, not tagged on as some writer's gag.
Because to me, Thor Ragnarok felt like it just needed a laugh track.
Well,
but that was just...
I also think that Thor is, essentially, it's trying to be a comedy at heart. It's really in its DNA. So it's, pretty different.
Two different things, but for me, that's what I really liked about this one. It had plenty of humor and laugh-out moments, and it wasn't dumbed down.
Oh, for sure. If they ever get around to making that Black Widow movie that they're talking about, I hope there's not a joke in it. I want it to be super serious, and not every movie needs to have all the same elements.
Which, to me, started feeling like Marvel kept doing that over and over. So I was kind of glad that this one they didn't. They did to some degree, but they made it its own just as well.
For sure. Should we talk about some of the action of the film? We haven't really got into that yet. Not as many action sequences as I thought there would have been. Probably my favorite was the chase in Korea, where Panther is going from car top to side of the buildings and back on top. I thought that whole sequence really worked for me. That's what I expect from a Black Panther movie, as opposed to maybe in the third act, the bigger action scenes, which kind of reminded me, speaking of, a little bit of Thor Ragnarok, of ships flying and shooting, a little Star Wars-y to me. Yeah, I much more prefer the street level action.
I agree. And I think for me, some of my favorite action sequences were like the test to be king of Wakanda. I loved that. I thought that was great. Just kind of down, dirty, gritty, nothing necessarily spectacular special effects wise, just it seemed more true to the character, and it lets you learn a little bit about the character through the action sequence too, and that them put to their limits. And I love that, and I agree with you, the car sequence was great, and that big battle towards the end of the movie was somewhat problematic for me. It worked well enough. but that was not my favorite.
I find that these movies have become too much CGI reliant. I guess you kind of have to almost because of what the characters are.
Did you like the giant rhinos?
Nope.
Not really.
Yeah.
But it was just when they're fighting, it's just like a giant CGI fest. At that point, were actors even there? It was just like computer generated things back and forth.
Reminded me a little bit at the end of Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
With the Gungans. Yeah.
Yeah, thought of that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of find sometimes the CGI heavy fights just don't work because it just doesn't look right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard to really follow what's going on, too. Sometimes I get lost.
Yeah, especially like when they put them in a darker setting as well. So they're both wearing black suits, kind of in the darker setting. Can't tell who's throwing the punches, who's getting hit.
I'd agree. The third act action, I didn't think was spectacular, but it was good enough.
It served its purpose. It was fine. It just wasn't my favorite.
Okay, we talked about the movie quite a bit now. Why don't we move into spoilers?
Spoilers.
So, any big spoilers you guys want to talk about? This movie is not really spoiler heavy, that's for sure.
I guess we can discuss more about Claw because we didn't get much into it before.
Yeah, you're right. I was surprised at how they disposed of Claw.
Yeah.
He's such a big villain in the Marvel Universe. I keep thinking they got to hang on to a few more of these villains if they're ever gearing up for some sort of Secret Wars movie or something like that.
Because if you keep killing them all off, you can start scraping bottom of the barrel, especially like Claw, which could have been a really good villain in the sequel, right? After you do Killmonger.
Or even in other Marvel movies.
Yeah. So to kill him off, it's like, okay, wow, you're really kind of limiting yourself in your future. But the way that they did it so brutally. They didn't shy away from that. Like, I think some of those other Marvel movies wouldn't have shown that.
Right.
And even before the fact when Claw's holding Killmonger's girlfriend hostage and he's like, just shoots her dead.
Yeah, that surprised me. I actually expected Killmonger just as a show of power to the Wakandan people to actually take Claw to them and kill him in front of them as a much bigger display of power, because if you're just bringing the guy's body, you can say you've killed him, but there's no proof that you did. But if you're willing to kill him in front of everybody else as a offering, a gift or whatever, that speaks louder. I guess it's a little more complicated, and then you gotta deal with somebody live in a bag, but but yeah, I almost expected something like that. So I wasn't shocked necessarily that Claw died in the movie, but I was not expecting him to meet his maker when he did.
I agree. Not a lot of other spoilers in the film, really, to talk about.
I thought W'Kabi's turn was a little questionable. I thought he turned way too easy, like to be somebody that grew up in that culture, and there just never seemed to be any second thought. Like, sure, he's a warrior and that's his way. Like, and they set that up early on where they're talking about which way the country should go, and he says, well, if you brought me to basically wage war, I'd be there. But yeah, it just seemed a little convenient and too easy that he shifted allegiance to Killmonger so easy.
Not just shifted allegiances, but betrayed T'Challa, which they showed that they have a really good relationship. Like, they grew up together.
Exactly.
And then he was dating the captain of the guard, and then the fact that he was sided with Killmonger and basically go to war against her, really? And then in the end, he's like, oh, would you kill me? It's like, motherfucker, you've been trying to kill her and her army for like the past 10 minutes, and now you're shocked that she's fucking holding a spear to your neck?
Yeah, he's kind of that conscience of the film, the conflict between the two characters, between the hero and the villain. And he's right on the fence
right
with
in
how
the
they
middle.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the character could have used a little bit more motivation.
Yeah, fleshing out.
They could have done a lot more with that character. I guess in the interest of time, how much do you really flesh that out?
A line or two would have even sufficed almost, right? Because better than nothing.
Yeah. Any other nitpickings?
As far as other nitpicks, I think some of the CGI didn't look great. Like, it looked almost too fake, which is silly to say about CGI.
You could
always,
tell it was
yeah,
CGI.
you could tell. And you mentioned earlier the rhinos really took me out of it. I thought, this isn't Lord of the Rings. Like, you don't have to have that. And it's funny because I thought exactly that was almost a hybrid of Lord of the Rings meets Phantom Menace, because you had the people with energy shields. And yeah, that scene kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, actually. That was the weakest part of the movie. And if you could improve upon that, I would probably love this movie because there was so many things going for it up until that point. It seemed out of place, really.
The whole third act is kind of strange anyways, and all the motivations. Killmonger trying to get these ships with weapons out of Wakanda. So it's like they're spending the third act trying to stop something from not happening. Not that it's underwhelming, but they're not trying to reverse the ramifications of something that we know is about to happen. All we know is that the ships are leaving the country, but they don't have an agenda yet. But if the ships had a certain thing that they wanted to do immediately, that they have to stop them from doing, it raises the stakes in the third act. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it was also one of those things that you see in a lot of movies where it's like a plane chase through, like you know, in Captain America, the First Avenger, he's got to stop all those planes from delivering weapons. You see that a lot in movies. So it was kind of almost cliche.
Yeah, that didn't work for me.
And even how that fight scene ended with the two armies and whatever, how the guy's charging with the Rhino and then all of a sudden stops because of his girlfriend and it's like surrenders. Did he not think that was going to happen? Like,
I don't know why these rhinos, just because they're called, would know to attack other Wakandans anyways. It doesn't really make sense to me why they would know how they could differentiate their enemy.
It wasn't that, but it was just more the fact the guy surrenders because he's like, he realizes his girlfriend's against him, but she was against him the entire fight.
One thing I did like I know we're kind of in a nitpick section of spoilers, but just to flip that, I really liked that tribe that lived in isolation and how they really were doing their own thing and how suddenly those who were in power had to rely upon the quote-unquote weaker ones or the bastardized and segregated people. And I thought that worked great. And I loved that. And I loved seeing an alternate take on what their tribe could have been.
Especially how that leader was presented with an opportunity. He could have become as strong as the Black Panther. And he's right there.
Right. That would be M'Baku. He's played by Winston Duke, and another good performance.
And it's one of those, you know, it shows that they're more of a warrior tribe, but they still have their honor, and they're not all that bad. They've just kind of been, like you said, bastardized, put out as
the black sheep of Wakanda.
Yeah, and they're kind of like, we kind of want our own kind of place in Wakanda instead of being the outcasts. Like, they want some of this stuff to make their lives easier too, right?
Although near the end, I was waiting for them to show up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That wasn't a surprise.
No.
Okay, that's enough for spoilers. Why don't we move on to the post-credit sequences? I'm sure you guys stuck around for them. The first one seems like it should have been just the end of the movie. T'Challa announcing to the world that Wakanda is going to come out.
And that very pointed comment about a good leader decides to build bridges rather than... He doesn't say build walls, but build barriers.
I don't think that was lost on anyone.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic, but also shows the quality of character of the Black Panther, too. And I thought that was great.
I would have loved it if he said walls.
Yeah, he didn't need to.
You know, everybody knew. So, yeah, and I agree. I think as a mid-credit sequence, yeah, sure, it works, but yeah, it would have been fine. Yeah, it could have been fine as just the end.
And especially when the guy asked, what do you have to offer to the world? And just that little smile on his face, like, you're about to be woken up here, right? And I agree with you. It would have been just fine to then have the other scene in the mid-credits because that way you didn't have to sit through the entire time just to see that extra scene.
That scene that you're talking about is with Sebastian Shaw as Bucky Barnes.
Isn't it Sebastian Stan?
Yes.
Sebastian Shaw. That's the leader of the Hellfire Club.
Yes.
Well, that would be a surprise.
What's he doing here?
Wow.
All right. Bring it in the X-Men, guys. Okay. That was good. Actually, throughout the whole movie, I was thinking there is one guy in Wakanda that we haven't seen yet, and I wonder if we're going to walk by him on ice or something. But
I was actually kind of expecting that they might go and wake him up, be like, we need you for this fight.
Oh, and actually him participate.
Yeah, because they needed him.
But then you're going down a whole road of the white savior that maybe you don't want to go down, right? Like
True, but it's the fact that, you know, I've been kind of conditioned with these Marvel movies that one of the other characters always appears and does something. Yeah. And with Bucky there, actually in Wakanda, it would have made sense.
I think if that's in a different movie that isn't so socially conscious and socially aware, you might have seen that. But considering this movie really knew what it was doing, I don't think they wanted to go down that road.
I'm not saying that I was disappointed. I was just expecting him to show up. The fact that he didn't and they just let this cast shine, that was amazing.
It's a nice, brief way to set up the events for Avengers so you don't have to go through the process of let's wake him up.
Yeah.
And, now we know he's up. And he says, I think someone says, how are you? And he says, I'm well. Or are we to assume that he's all cleared up?
I don't know if you can say that he's completely, because he's always going to live with that guilt in the back of his mind, right?
No, I'm just saying I don't think he can be brainwashed again. I just think he looks like with the robes and everything, he's at a Zen place.
He's found his peace.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a nice post-credit sequence to just expedite the matters for the next movie.
I agree. And I think it would be surprising to see this scene in Avengers Infinity War. Like, this actually has context and meaning to the movie it was in, not like some of these where it's a tack on of a scene that's already been shot for the upcoming movie. So let's just put that as the post-credits. I really liked it.
Okay, let's do our final thoughts on the film. It's a great Marvel movie. I really enjoyed it. It's the Black Panther origin film that he deserves. Fantastic cast, great themes, pretty decent action. And like all of these origin films, whether it's Doctor Strange or even Antman, a great stepping stone for future films with this guy. And I can't wait to see Black Panther 2.
Yeah, it fleshes out the Marvel Universe a step further than what we know, and it does it in a grand, great style. It's visually lush. It's got a very strong identity about it that I loved, and whatever minor things I didn't like about it, I really enjoyed it and can't wait to watch it again.
And I agree, and I was definitely happy that they did do it the way that they did. Charles is the main guy. All of his supporting characters are women. Let's make them all strong. Like what you said, no white savior coming in to bail them all out. And definitely a movie in the right direction. It's one of those, it shows that you could have made a Black Widow movie a long time ago and it would have been good and people were going to see it with a strong female character. Let's hope they continue this trend and keep making more.
And as always, as we say, we'll see what happens after the event of the second Avengers movie, where everybody's at, and see if it's going to be a completely different Marvel universe like Kevin Feige keeps saying. So I don't think so.
They want to keep it going the way it is because,
Matt. Right. Great job all around. And like I said, another great entry into the MCU.
Go see it.
All right. Why don't we move on to the rant and rave section? Dex, thanks for joining us again. I'll start this time.
What?
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Exactly. Okay. First, I want to do a quick shout out to a rave that you brought up, Paul, on a few podcasts ago. I have finally caught up with the FX TV show Atlanta. Holy smokes, is it good.
Right?
One of the best shows of last year. Outstanding. The show has fantastic writing. Performances are great. It captures that look and feel of Atlanta so well. You can tell the show was shot there, and I don't know, it's got a certain feel to it, doesn't it?
It all feels very real. Like it's not hard to believe that there's people living this life and the things that they have to deal with on their day-to-day life. It's believable.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, it can venture into the surreal at moments. There's that one fantastic episode where I think it's the Black Entertainment Network or whatever, and they do that Charlie Rose kind of spin-off show, and the fake car commercials all the way through it.
Yep.
That whole episode is some of the best satire I've seen. Just that episode alone is brilliant. Yeah, check it out if you haven't. Season 2 starts March 1st. I cannot wait.
I can't either.
Yeah.
I think I said this when you reviewed it originally, Paul. I've got enough on my plate that I need to catch up on.
10 episodes,
I don't need another great accolade for the show.
Half an hour show. Look around for FX. They'll probably do a marathon of it before season 2 starts. You can watch the whole show in 5 hours.
Yeah.
Check it out. Okay. Really, Darren, check it out.
It's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my first one, I'm going to do kind of a Netflix special here. Let's start off with Cloverfield Paradox. How many guys have seen this here?
That was going to be one of my...
I thought it was going to be, actually, and I thought it could end up being a group discussion. So, okay. It was directed by Julius Ona, stars Daniel Bruhl, David Oyelowo, Chris O'Dowd, Elizabeth Debicki, and Gugu Mbatha-Raw. This is the film that debuted right after the Super Bowl. It was kind of a big surprise. We were talking about it on our anticipated movies of the year, and we're wondering where it was going to fit in the schedule and if it was going to get a theatrical release.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it at that point.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know Cloverfield was coming up.
So I watched it that night, and apparently I'm one of the few people who really enjoyed it because I thought it was really well done. Kind of a great episode of Black Mirror. They could have cut about 20 minutes out of it, I thought, but it had that kind of feel. I love the characters. I love the basic premise, which is a space station orbiting Earth is messing around with the particle accelerators, and somehow they trigger something and end up in some parallel universe where the Earth isn't there anymore, and they're just alone in space. I really liked it.
I will be the counterpoint to that.
Excellent. Hey, it's not surprising because I've heard reaction
The
on
reviews
this
are atrocious.
Yeah, really bad.
I didn't hate this movie by any means. Out of the 3 Cloverfield movies that we have, it's by far my least favorite.
I like it more than the first one.
Really? The series itself is interesting that they're constantly doing something different. Like the first movie obviously is very much that monster, handy cam footage movie. 10 Cloverfield Lane is very much that thriller suspense. This is very much that sci-fi space adventure. I loved the cast. I thought the cast were really good. I thought it introduced some very interesting ideas. I just felt overall it was kind of boring and flat to some degree, like to the point where my wife stopped even watching halfway through because she was so disinterested in what was going on. It kind of embraces some already existing cliches and of other sci-fi stuff, which becomes a little predictable. It was enjoyable enough.
Like what?
Just the stranger that is suddenly on board your ship. And I don't know, there was just a lot of it that just really felt familiar, like I had seen before. But
For me, remember that movie Life I was complained about last year?
Yeah.
Where like an alien gets on board the spaceship and takes over and they all got to run around and kill it and it's killing that is routine to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen something done with parallel universes quite like this, where you're meeting characters that are the exact same person that you've met already, but not because they've had different life experiences. When they start messing around with that character.
Yeah.
I thought all of that was really interesting.
And I will agree. That was the interesting stuff to me. But some of the other stuff that I guess kind of leads up to that was by the numbers sci-fi. Like, you've seen these movies before in the 90s, that kind of stuff. I liked it enough that I would watch it again. And I would not discourage anybody from watching it. But I didn't love it. And I was glad that I watched it on Netflix for free and didn't pay to see it in the theater.
I'll agree with that. It's not that good.
No. And I felt there was enough interesting kind of tie-ins to what we know of the Cloverfield universe. But kind of near the end, what was introduced kind of felt a little tacked on to me. Like, was it even necessary?
I love the last shot.
I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so that's a thing. So
you say you'd watch it again, though. So would you say you're generally thumbs up on it, or
if I had to give it
or you'd watch it again just because you like the universe?
Honestly, I think I would almost watch it again to just maybe even process and digest everything that happened, because there's a lot that happens, and maybe there's things that I didn't catch the first time that maybe would make me appreciate it more.
Most of the stuff on Earth, I thought either I didn't get or I thought they could have got rid of.
And I agree. Yeah, inconsequential and didn't really end up mattering. But it was good enough. I'd give it like a 5.5 out of 10.
And I'd give it about a 7.5.
Wow, 7.5. So
that does sound more intriguing. So I don't know. Who do I believe?
See,
it's not very long.
I'll watch it
90
for sure,
minutes. Yeah.
it kind of makes me want to watch the whole series and give the first one a chance. And I tried to before this, but I didn't get a chance. So I'm gonna watch all 3 for the next podcast. Not the next one, which but
sometime we'll catch up.
Yeah, but I will definitely do all 3.
Yeah, I'd like to know what you think. Like they're all tangentially linked. Yeah.
Somewhat. And I do like that each movie has its own identity. It's feeding off of a different theme. There's another one coming out later this year that's going to be set in World War II.
Yeah.
So, like, this doesn't ruin the franchise to me where I wouldn't want to see anymore. It just, for me, out of the 3 we've seen, for me, it's the weakest.
And this got me more excited about the franchise. So.
I think it introduces more possibilities, for sure, and that's more interesting. But, it just kind of fell flat for me.
Okay. Well, sorry about stealing one of your... I don't know what it was. Was it a rave or a rant?
It was in the middle.
Something like that. Okay. My next one is another Netflix film. It's called A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
Oh, cocksucker.
Boy, I am just robbing the bank today. Directed by David Wayne. It's based on the book by Josh Karp. It's written by Michael Colton and John.Aboud. And it is the story of Doug Kenny, who created National Lampoon's magazine in the 70s and later went on to write the movies Animal House and Caddyshack, and goes into his somewhat tumultuous and tragic life. Will Forte plays Doug Kenny very well, does a great job of it. I know I'm pretty old, but I missed National Lampoon when I was a kid. That was too old for me. I was more of a Mad Magazine kid at the time. But Animal House and Caddyshack are 2 great comedies, and anything that's behind the scenes showbiz Hollywood I check out. I've seen all of them, and this one's pretty good. It has a lot of cameos in it. Not cameos by actors, but the people that he came across in his life at National Lampoons was Gilda Radner, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, all of these people from Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. Most of the writers on National Lampoon were stolen by Lorne Michaels to create SNL. Joel McHale plays Chevy Chase to great effect.
Wow.
Any fans of Community knows what good casting that is. I don't think it's a great film. It's not, overly well directed or shot or anything, but it's funny. And this guy had a real dark sense of humor that I totally respond to. And even the stuff that he was doing back then seems pretty savage today. It's amazing he was getting away with it. But I really enjoyed it, and I do recommend it.
And Donham Gleeson played the other guy that co-starred in National.
Right. Kind of reminded me of The Social Network a little bit, with the two guys trying to create something and having that kind of fractured relationship.
I found that a lot of things were just kind of happening without really kind of no segues or natural. He just kept jumping points, because there was so much to cover. They did it so quickly.
It's like they've read a biography and they're just ripping certain pages out.
And because they tried to throw everything in there. Okay, let's show how many people he's worked with. So here's Bill Murray. Here's this. I thought the use of the narration was kind of nice with
Martin Mull.
Yeah, which was like a plot device, but he never even got to be whatever. But it was kind of interesting because at one point he's like, well, I know none of these actors actually look like the real people, but come on. Do you think Will Forte looked like me at that age?
Right, exactly. So you would recommend it though?
If you're interested in the subject of National Lampoons, I would recommend it. If you're not, find that as a movie, it's just completely disjointed and kind of fast-paced moving.
I agree with that. But I was laughing. So in a comedy, if I'm laughing throughout it.
They had some really good one-liners and stuff like that. But yeah, but for me, I think because I know those movies, I like them. It was kind of nice to see that. But as a movie, I just felt it was really just...
Yeah, an interesting character, though. Yeah, I think his life is worth a movie. Maybe a better one, but it's still worth seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll be really quick with my last one. I also saw another Netflix stand-up special that just debuted. Darren, are you going to review Chris Rock Tambourine?
I would like to, but I haven't watched it yet.
Good.
So.
It's really good. He's I haven't seen a Chris Rock stand-up for many years now, so it seems like a while. I guess I know what he's been going through. He talks about race, the police, politics, and Trump, but mostly he talks about his divorce and the reasons why he was recently divorced and the infidelity behind it. And this is just a cry-out call for men to be better to their wives out there and don't go through what he has just been going through. So it's got its dark moments for sure. He's in a lot of pain, it seems, these last few years. And maybe this is a bit of a cathartic stand-up for him. But I still laughed out loud many times. Not one of his best, but at an hour. It's got enough good material for me to warrant a recommendation.
It's interesting. I heard a review of Patton Oswalt's new stand-up, and it sounded very similar where he was talking about the death of his wife. Yeah. And the review was talking about how it was very much cathartic for Patton Oswalt to be talking about this in a public arena. So it sounds like similar. And
yeah, that's a good one too.
And yeah, I love Chris Rock from back in the day. Like his stand-ups would make me laugh. So yeah, it'll be interesting to catch up with this one for sure.
It's one of my all-time favorite comics. So for sure I'm interested in this.
Cool. Okay, that's all I've got this week. So, Cloverfield Paradox, A Futile and Stupid Gesture, and Chris Rock Tambourine. I give recommendations to all of them. Not glowing, but check it out. Okay, Paul, why don't you go next?
Well, my abbreviated rant and rave now, Ron.
Yeah.
Jerk.
In a parallel universe, it was you who went first and then me. So,
well, I've stolen rants and raves from you in the past, so you turnabout is fair play. My one rave will be for a network sitcom that, to be honest, wasn't even really on my radar until my wife started watching it. It's on, I believe it's ABC right now. It's called The Good Place, and it has Kristen Bell and Ted Danson in it. And I was surprisingly impressed with it because I find, as is noted on this podcast, I'm a harsh judge of humor. So I just dismiss most comedies as being very formulaic and downplaying to the audience. Yeah. Pandering, exactly. This is clever. It's witty. It's charming. It's really well done. And it's great to see Ted Danson in a comedic role again. The premise of the show is Kristen Bell plays this woman that ends up in the Good Place, which is a neighborhood in heaven. And she's just been a despicable human being and has no idea why she's in heaven. So the premise is her basically trying to not be discovered that she's in the wrong place. And the supporting cast is very good. It's very, like I said, it's very witty in the dialogue, in the humor, even in like naming restaurants in the neighborhood. It's the Good Plates and just clever little details like this. I don't really want to go into it too much because I don't really want to spoil anything, but it's just charming and it's nice to see good humor, like something that I can actually laugh to, and it's not just playing to the lowest common denominator. It's well worth checking out. And I think season 2 is on air right now, and it's a short season 1. I think there was only 13 episodes, which for me, I think it plays to the favor of really any show in that you don't have really much filler. You're not stretching out any story. This plot takes twists and turns along the way, and yeah, very good character development. I can't wait to start watching season 2.
Yeah, Megan's watched it, so I've seen and overheard from several episodes, several scenes, and yeah, it seems it's got very sharp writing.
Sounds like a very tricky premise to get right.
I didn't know what it was about. You know, I just overheard Megan watching some scenes, some episodes, and piecing together, yeah, it is tricky. When I was like, wow, is this what this is about?
It's like a lot of dry ice and people walking around with clouds and stuff. You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of white robes and halos with wires.
Really, that's a serious question. What is the set?
It looks like a neighborhood.
So they're playing it for real.
They're playing it for real. Okay. That you're in a neighborhood and it's just your quote unquote ideal world. But of course, the main character is not in her ideal world. So there's a little bit of torture involved in that. And I'm always skeptical of something like this where it sounds like a very clever premise, but like you run like, okay, how long can you milk that for before it gets old? We all watched Who's the Boss or whatever back in the day, and they stretched whatever premise was there into...
Well, they'll wring every penny out that they can. But it feels like an HBO kind of premise. It doesn't feel like a network show from what I've seen, and the quality is there for sure.
I think that's the best way to put it, Dex, is it doesn't feel like network TV, which is probably the reason I like it. So...
I think the last network so-called sitcom that I watched, and that was only due to your guys' pleading, was Community. And it's not that good. I imagine.
I wouldn't put it on the level of Community, but it's very good. And it's from the same production company of, funny enough, another network comedy that I like, which is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And yeah, they hit it out of the park on this one too. It's just, it's lighthearted, but has enough dark elements. And yeah, it's just really well written, which I appreciate beyond anything else.
So that was The Good Place.
The Good Place.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Ivan, what do you got? What do you got left?
What do I have left? So I guess one of the raves is not going to be a movie. It's going to be more of a discussion of something that I've done recently, and that is getting my movies out of their cases and putting them into binders.
Minimizing.
Yeah. Gotta say, a few years ago, if somebody suggested this to me, and I was like, really? Why would you ever do that? Like, that sounds wrong. And unfortunately, it got to the point where I just didn't have the space for it. And I was like, you know what? I never look at cases. I never look at the cases, never look at the thing. It's just more like, there's the movie, I want to grab it out, put it in, and that's it. So I gotta say, I'm pretty happy that I did this. And the amount of space that I've saved is ridiculous. I've showed you how little space is taken up now. I'm just kind of more curious. What do you guys think?
I'll be the middleman in this.
Right.
One of my good friends showed this to me probably about 5 or 6 years ago. He and his girlfriend had done it, and I just thought, are you daft? Why are you doing this? Well, suddenly I'm running out of space, and I'm embracing the idea too, a little bit differently than Ivan. I've got, a sleeve per movie, so it's a little easier to organize. I guess it all boils down to what your priority is. If you have a massive collection, Ron likes to show off his massive collection, then absolutely, I wouldn't entertain this at all. But if you're battling for space or you have other things you'd rather display to people, then I think, yeah, absolutely embrace this. There's different ways you can go about it, but if you're at a premium from space, if you've got a premium for space, then absolutely, I would do this.
For the price, I was like, great. I didn't want to spend hundreds of dollars on this to make it because there was things where you can make this look incredible, but it would have cost me up to $1,000 to do it all.
Are you downgrading for the aesthetics or for the functionality of it, right?
Functionality. Yeah. Because, you've been to my place. You've seen all the collectibles I have. And recently, my D&D group, we brought our board game table to my place. So now it's just, I have to get rid of my table where I keep a lot of stuff and kind of store with. So I'm fighting for space because of that. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of came to like I needed to do something. Yeah. And unfortunately, my movies were taking up a whole lot of bookshelf space that I could have put all these other things on to free up all this other space around.
Yeah, I see the appeal for sure. I say it's not for me at this point in my life still, but yeah, I wouldn't criticize anyone who does it. I definitely see the appeal.
And it's one of those, I'm in the same way. It's like, but then I realized that I never actually look at the cases, ever. Mm-hmm. Cases there so I can see the title on the side so I can pull it out, this movie I want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I look through the collection, right? Like, oh, what do I want to watch? But you can flip through the binder just as well, right?
Exactly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like a list of movies in and put it there so that I can be like, okay, so these movies are in this binder. This is one that I want. Grab that binder, flip to that page, and you're done. Mm-hmm. It kind of became more because it was necessary, but now that I did it, I actually don't regret it.
I think years ago when I shifted my movie collection from my living room, my main entertaining space, to a den area that you pass by every day without really looking at, then I embrace that idea a lot more because it's not something I see every day, so how much am I going to really miss it? Whereas, Ron, your collection, like you would spend a lot of money to do this for your collection.
Yeah. Right, and wouldn't even think of it. Yeah, I like to be immersed by the films.
I wouldn't want to come to your house anymore if you did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like having walls of films to look at, and for me, it's just a matter of
but you don't
just
have
the functionality
all
of
those
it.
Batmobiles and everything else.
True, exactly. You have to pick and choose what you want to display.
And film is your passion, and it's on display.
And you know what? Like, it's not like I got rid of all my cases. Like, the ones that are like special edition, like the really nice ones, I kept because I'm like, they look awesome.
Sure.
But for the most part, if it's just like a regular plastic case with just a sleeve, I mean, I never looked at it anyway, so who cares? It's not like I display it so you see the front of all those movies. It's just like a side thing, so...
And I do like when Ron's massive collection is on display.
Thank you.
I like to handle Ron's massive collection.
I might need some help reorganizing it.
My hands are free, Ron.
All right.
Ron's massive collection has penetrated all of our lives.
And my next rave will be Mr. Holmes.
Caught up with that one, did you?
Yeah, I did, and I really liked it. It was a very, like Sherlock Holmes should be a very character-driven movie, and Ian McKellen knocked it out of the park. Such a great job, and it's a really strong study of Sherlock Holmes, in his later years, and how it seems like he's finally kind of finding his humanity. Never having that before. It was always like, solve the case and do this, and now he's focusing on his regrets. Can't really discuss this movie too much because it's like one story that covers the movie, but it was so well done that I really enjoyed it.
Ian McKellen is the reason to see it.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He's playing a very aged Sherlock Holmes. I think he's
fighting off dementia.
Do they mention how old he is? In his 90s or something, right?
He's way up there, yeah.
Way up there, yeah.
Because he's like fighting off dementia and trying to piece together the clues of his last case that drove him into retirement.
Right. But for all of you out there who think it's Robert Downey Jr.,
No,
it is not that type of Sherlock Holmes movie. It is a very kind of quaint, quiet Sherlock Holmes movie.
Yes. There's no action.
Very small, right.
It's all character.
It's a relationship story.
That's very interesting. The guy who is, as you said, so fact-driven and so sharp with his intellect, to see him in that position where he's fighting dementia, I thought it was a very interesting take on the character.
And his relationship with that young boy is really good.
Yeah, I like this movie too.
We all recommend it. You haven't seen it, Paul?
I haven't. I heard an interview with Sir Ian McKellen years ago where he was promoting this, and it sounded like a really interesting idea that I'd want to explore, because I always like seeing characters that so well taken out of their element and their one strength is robbed of them and how they adapt. So yeah, it sounds really interesting.
And it's on Netflix.
Yep.
So that way it'll be easy for you to watch.
Nice.
Okay, cool. Okay, Darren, what do you got?
I would like to talk about a movie with the unwieldy title, but interesting title of I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It's a Netflix original film, and just as a little side note, when my buddy Chris and I heard about this film, and I think we watched a trailer at work, he wrote the title of the film on a sticky note and put it in his lunch bag to take home with him to remember that I want to see the movie. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. and his girlfriend found a note in his lunch bag that said, "I don't feel at home in this world anymore." She was a little worried. He explained, "No, it's just the title of the movie. Don't worry."
Do we need to have a talk?
I'm not harboring any horrible thoughts here, dear. So like I said, it's a Netflix original film starring Melanie Lynskey, who, based on her credit list, has been in 100 different movies and TV shows, but not a lot that you'd really stand up and pay attention to. She's got a familiar face, but I doubt ever had a starring role before, just kind of small parts in movies and maybe larger parts on a few TV shows. But she's a talented actress, and the film is written and directed by Mason Blair, better known as an actor who has appeared in such films as Logan Lucky, Gold he was in. He was in Green Room and Blue Ruin, two very acclaimed movies from director Jeremy Saulnier.
Yeah.
I'm saying his name right.
He's good in the Green Room.
I can't remember who he is in
He's
it.
kind of the second in charge to Patrick Stewart.
I see.
He's the
Okay.
one guy that let go at the end.
Okay. So this movie starts out with Melanie Lynskey having a series of, unfortunate encounters with assholes. I mean, we all know there's a lot of assholes in the world, and small to big, we all encounter assholes on a daily basis. And she's getting a little fed up with assholes. And it feels like that kind of quirky, independent film. Like there's going to be a comedy. She's going to meet somebody, and, they're going to fall in love based on their mutual dislike of assholes. And she meets an asshole played by Elijah Wood, and quickly learns he's actually an accidental asshole. He lets his dog shit on her lawn only because he's kind of absent-minded and dopey, but he's really kind of a man after her own heart, if you will. Then her house is broken into, her grandmother's silverware and her laptop are stolen, and the movie kind of takes some dark turns and becomes more of a crime film in a lot of ways. And there's some big changes in tone that some people might find they don't quite work for them. When we were watching, Megan felt these kind of changes in tone didn't quite work for her until probably by the end, they all kind of add up together and it feels more right. But I actually quite liked the changes in tone myself. Like there are some dark, shocking turns in this movie involving Melanie Lynskey's character and her quest to retrieve
her stolen goods.
Yeah, retrieve her stolen goods and get to the bottom of why some of these people would, be like this. Why would anyone get into a life of crime and steal other people's things and violate them and break into someone else's house and make them feel vulnerable like that?
Kind of like this moral code that she has.
Yeah, sort of. Like she's I don't even know if the character is sure what she wants to do, but
that's a good point.
Yeah, but she feels she needs to. And the main target of hers would be the son of this rich couple who is kind of being used by and I mean, none of these are like big crime figures here. We're not.
It all seems to be taking place in a neighborhood of about 5 blocks.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no big crime syndicate or anything. These are small time criminals.
Right.
But one of them is the son of a very rich couple, and I think she's a little perturbed that what's this guy doing messed up with this. And anyways, like I said, it takes some dark turns, and there's some funny dark turns too. I mean, there's scenes of death and destruction that have a lot of comedy in them, and they work in a way that sometimes you think only someone like Tarantino is skilled at getting you to laugh at such violence. But the director here, Mason Blair, does a good job of getting you to laugh in the middle of a scene where someone's getting shot. So, it's not a great film. It's not profound, but it's a lot of fun. For a 90-minute Netflix romp, I definitely recommend it. There's a lot to like here.
I'm probably more on Wise Megan's side.
Yeah.
I found it, a little disjointed for me. It's a great performance, and you follow her all the way through it. You care about what she cares about.
Yeah.
But the shifts in tone that it takes, all in all, I think it's worth watching, and I recommend it. But it wouldn't be a high recommendation for me.
No, it's no masterpiece, but it's
as Netflix films go.
For a Netflix original film, I've seen one recently that had some wild shifts in tone that did not work for me, and that one Ron loved.
Which one was
a little film called Okja.
Oh yeah,
but for me in this one did work for me, and I liked it profoundly more than Okja. My biggest problem with this movie might be the Elijah Wood character. He's great in it. He's very good, but we've seen that character before a lot of times in a lot of different movies, so it's not really fresh. There's something fun happens with him in the very last scene at the barbecue that I kind of liked, but aside from that, he doesn't bring anything new to his repertoire.
But she is really good.
She is. She's a talented actress, and she doesn't look like Scarlett Johansson, so she's probably not going to get a lot of big starring roles in big Hollywood movies, but she deserves them. She
brings that
very
believability
talented
to the role, though.
For sure, yeah. She definitely feels like a real person, and she's talented, and I'd be interested in watching more with her for sure.
And like I always say with Netflix, the price is right.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you're paying $10 a month, $12 a month for your Netflix rental. Like, it's a 90-minute film. Instead of watching Captain America Civil War for the 10th time, put this on once. Have a little something different.
And it was called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore?
That is correct, yes.
All right. It is a...
It's a good title. It's a mouthful, though.
It is a mouthful. Okay. Let's wrap it up for another week. Next time we'll be back to discuss Season 4 of Black Mirror. We're finally going to check that one out. It's been a year since we reviewed the entire show. Let's see what we all thought of the new season. Until then, please subscribe, give us a rating on our iTunes, Apple Podcasts. You can like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if interested, you can always comment and search for our past reviews at our website, whywecmovies@libsyn.com. Thanks for listening, and take care.
Bye.
So long.
Peace.
Suck a dick because we own ya. Tell the president to suck a dick because we own ya. Tell the government to suck a dick because we own ya. We own ya. We own ya. We own ya.